بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
अस्सलामु अलैकुम। आज पीर का दिन है। Forgotten, this is supposed to be the English broadcast. Assalamu alaikum. It is Monday, the 11th of July 2022, and in our series Reflections on the Holy Quran, this is broadcast number 334, and we are discussing the words used in chapter 2 verse 102 of the Holy Quran, and this is our 15th broadcast in that series. These broadcasts are brought to you by Laser, Lahore Ahmadiyya School of Education in Religion, which is a department of Ahmadiyya Association for Propagation of Islam. And just to remind you that the Ahmadiyya movement was founded by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, and his teaching was that although people try and bring another prophet after the Holy Prophet Muhammad, the Quran says that the Holy Prophet was Khatamun Nabiyyin, and the Holy Prophet explained its meaning by saying, La Nabiyya Badi, there is no prophet after. So now no prophet shall come, whether an old one or a new one. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib Rahmatullah Alayh claimed that he was, in accordance with the Hadith, a Mujaddid in a series or chain of Mujaddids. He wasn't the first person to claim this. For 1400 years before him, people had been claiming to be Mujaddids. But he said that his distinction was that the Messiah and the Mahdi that are spoken of in the Hadith, those titles actually belong to a Mujaddid, and he was that Mujaddid. And some people accepted his claim and others rejected it, and so on, as always happens. And people started calling him a kafir and so on. And he taught that this is the wrong thing to do, because there is a hadith of the Holy Prophet that if one reciter of the kalima says to another reciter of the kalima that you are not a Muslim, you are a heretic, then it is the person saying it who's the heretic. So he repeatedly asked Muslims to abstain from doing this. And he also taught Muslims that although people say that not all the prophetic revelation is in the Holy Quran, and in fact some prophetic revelation that is in the Holy Quran is abrogated, is cancelled. This is wrong, because Allah says that I have revealed it and I shall protect it. So if Allah has taken the responsibility of safeguarding his revelation, then how could anything be missing from it, and how can it be that some of what is in it is abrogated, is no longer applicable? This is wrong. And he pointed out that jihad is a fundamental duty of every Muslim. But people say that jihad means you take the sword and you start killing non-Muslims and etc. But Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib Rahmatullah Alayhi pointed to an incident in the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, who, when returning from fighting, said that Muslims are returning from Jihad-e-Asghar, the minor jihad, to Jihad-e-Akbar, major jihad. And then the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam went on to explain that major jihad is jihad bin nafs, a struggle with your own inner self, a struggle with your soul. Of course, if you're attacked with the sword, then you defend yourself with the sword. But barring that, jihad means a struggle with the sword, a struggle with yourself, not with the sword. So let's go to the verse that we are going to look at. And as I explained that it's a long verse, so I don't recite the whole of it every time. Only the phrase whose words we are going to look at. Which I have now lost. Here we are. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما هم بضارين به من أحد إلا بإذن الله. And they cannot injure, hurt with it anyone except with Allah's permission. This, of course, is a continuation, and the previous part talks about people who think that they're going to use magic to try and harm people, and they create difficulties between husband and wife, etc. And God here says that, all the magic incantations and everything, they can't harm anyone with those. Harm and profit for people only come with Allah's permission. So let's go to my notes on the computer. So it says Vama. And so this expression has two parts, the Va and, which connects us with the previous part of the verse. In grammar, in English, they'd call it prefixed resumption article, and Ma, the negative. So whatever follows, this negates it. So that's that. And then the next word is hum, which is a pronoun meaning they. and they can't would become the English. And the next word is bidarin, and it has the root dad ra ra, and it occurs in the Holy Quran 74 times, and with these letters 11 different words are made, and the total of the occurrence of this root is 74. So the largest number is 19 times as dur, or another word, yadurra. So these both occur 19 times, and 10 times dar, and 9 times darra. So let us look at this root and its meaning. So, as I said, dad wa ra, and ad-durru actually signifies lacking, a lack of something. It could be lack of anything. It could be a lack of something in your personality. You know, if you are short-tempered, for example, your personality lacks something, a temperate personality. It could be lack of knowledge, lack of wisdom. It could be, it could refer to a disability. For example, if someone doesn't have an eye, the same word would be used. It could refer to lack of resources, money, and lack of position in society. So it can mean, well, depends on the context. You see, this is why I keep on saying that we go astray, because we don't look at the context of the way in which the word is used. For example, chapter 21, verse 84 says, فَكَشَفْنَا مَا بِهِ مِن دُرِّ. And the difficulty was removed. And then in another place, chapter 10, verse 12, وَأَنَّا كَشَفْنَا عَنْهُ دُرَّهُ مَرَّ كَأَلَّمْ يَدْعُنَا إِلَى دُرٍّ مَسَّهُ. And when we remove the difficulty, whatever that was lacking, we remove it. And when we remove that difficulty from which he was, with which he was afflicted, then he becomes careless. He doesn't care anymore. And he goes by as if he'd never called us, that is, called Allah, when he had that affliction. This is a statement of human nature. When we're in difficulty, we promise all manner of things, whether it is to Allah or a human being who we think can remove that difficulty, and so on. And the Holy Prophet, because He prayed to Allah for protection and so on. He was told in chapter 3, verse 111, لَن يَضُرُّكُمْ إِلَّا أَذًى. And apart from minor difficulty, they will not be able to cause you loss. So this is God saying to the Holy Prophet that, I'm with you. And then we have chapter 20, verse 102. وَمَا هُمْ بِضَارِّينَ بِهِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. And they cannot harm you with magic and these incantations. This can only happen by God's command. Again in chapter 1, actually this verse that we are reading now, وَيَتَعَلَّمُونَ مَا يَضُرُّهُمْ وَلَا يَنْفَعُهُمْ. And they learn these incantations and so on. You see these, people learn these things up and they mumble them in their under their breath, and then they blow on people and etc. And God says, these things, magic incantations and things that you learn, they harm the people who learn them, and they don't bring them any benefit. I mean, one harm is obvious, that maybe you paid someone to teach you that magic formula, so you lost money, and then rather than concentrating on work, rather than depending on your own self, you're depending on this mystical formula, and you're suffering because you're wasting time. It's not going to happen. And again, chapter 22, verse 12 says, يَدْعُو مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَضُرُّهُ وَمَا لَا يَنْفَعُهُ. That they call on things other than Allah to benefit them. And these things can't benefit you. And on chapter 22, verse 113, يَدْعُو لَمَنْ دَرَّهُ أَقْرَبُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِ. He calls upon that whose harm is greater than its benefit. The point I'm making is that the Holy Quran over and over again says that, people say this is just about idols. Okay, yes, if you want to take that literally. But what about people who go to graves and pray to graves, or some saint, or Dada Sahib, intercede on my behalf and get me this and get me that, and so on. People actually even pray towards these graves and so on. So this is, yes, in one sense it refers to idols, but it also refers to all these incantations and things which people use or try and use to harm others or get some profit and so on. Then people who write these things, these meaningless sentences and so on, they charge huge amounts of money. And it's not just about idols. Okay, let me put this to you another way. If you have a problem and you don't turn to Allah to help you solve it, But you go to someone, a human being, and he writes some words on a piece of paper and gives them to you and says, I don't know, get a glass of water and stir this in and drink it, and this will solve all your problems. If you're treating that piece of paper or that man as God, that they're going to solve your problem and not God. And despite the thing that I mean, we keep on claiming that if only Islam is implemented, all the Muslims' problems will be over. Yes, this is true, but what about implementing in your lives what you can implement? Because what you're doing is close to shirk, if not actually shirk. And yet you're saying if the government does something, Islam says speak the truth. The law says speak the truth. People still lie. Islam says don't give bribes. The law says don't give bribes, but people still give bribes. So this is just an excuse to say if only Islam was implemented, all our problems would be over. An interesting application of this word is that Darratun applies to anything that causes a loss to someone else. So if a man marries again, his wives will be called Darratan. Why? Because he had one wife, and whatever time he had, that was for her. Money that he had was for her. Now she's gone. Now that he's got another wife, that means he has to share that time and he has to share that money. So the first wife has lost something. And in fact, the second wife loses as well. Because if she leaves, the second wife was the only wife, then she would get all the attention and time and so on. And she doesn't because he already has another wife. And in fact, I forgot to mention this in the Urdu section. Al-idrar, that is, to marry another woman while you're already married. And interesting thing is that the person who has more than one wife is called Mudirrun. And interestingly, in Urdu, we have a word called muzir, harmful. And this has been taken from that and a limited meaning of that word used. So let's carry on. The next word is bihi. It is simple, it's an expression, actually two words, be and he. Be is the prefix preposition that is connecting it to the previous part of the phrase, and he is a pronoun. And then we have min, which is a preposition, and which means any. And then, of course, we have the word ahad. And its root is hamza ha dal. And these three letters are used to make two words. And the root appears 85 times, 74 times as ahad, and 11 times as ihda, ihda. And it basically means one, can mean unique, can mean anyone. And in fact, interestingly, as I was saying earlier on, that it can apply to plural as well, because you can say, there's not a single person at work. Now, there may be many people who come to work there. So this is applying to them collectively, that not a single one is there. So, but as I said, it doesn't always mean one, a numeric one. It can mean unique, unparalleled, something of which there is no likeness. But before I move forward, I noticed this and I thought it was interesting. Because generally people say that the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam married Hazrat Aisha radhiyallahu ta'ala when she was 6, and the marriage was consummated when she was 19 and so on. But when looking at the word ahad, I came across this, and I thought I'd share it with you, because what I have always said is that people who relate this hadith, originally related this hadith, perhaps missed out some words. And I base it on something that happens in Pakistan. And I was talking to someone who lives in a small village, etc. And he told me that, people in his area, they say things like, if something costs £40, they wouldn't say it's £40. They'll say it's 220s. Or, someone is 26, they won't say that person is 26, they'll say that person is 20 and 6. And the same thing happens in Arabic. When I was talking to him and saying that, probably Hazrat Aisha's age was given as 10 and 6, 16, and 10 and 9, 19. And I didn't have in mind this example, but then I saw this note, and I thought, I'd share it with you. Ahada Ashara, that is 1 and 10. 11, instead of 11, the way 11 is expressed is Ahada Ashara, 1 plus 10. Similarly, if it's 20, a person might say Ahadun wa Ishirun, 2 10s and a 1, 21. And this, it appears, certainly at the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, was a common method of expressing numbers, especially as far as age and price and so on were concerned. The time when I put forward this idea that I mentioned earlier on, that some words have been missed out, these examples didn't come to mind. But seeing them in an Arabic dictionary, I thought, right, I was correct. So The original might have been that Hazrat Aisha was 6 and 10 when she became engaged, and 9 and 10 when she was married. So that will make it 16 and 19. And if you work back from the date of death of Hazrat Aisha Radhiyallahu Ta'ala, you get to 16 and 19, which again supports this view. And of course, then we have Kul Huwallahu Ahad, and that is declare Allah to be one. So here, as I was saying earlier on, this is one in the sense of unique, without parallel, without compare. So Ahad, although it means one, it can also mean unique, unparalleled, etc. So, because we started slightly late, we are a little late finishing, but we have had our half hour, so I must take my leave of you. So, with the prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, may Allah keep all of you safe and sound and free from harm, regardless of what your religion or sect or nationality or caste or creed or color or whatever is. Assalamu alaikum. Khuda Hafiz. Goodbye.